Hello everyone, welcome to iQuanta. My name is Nitin. I'm sure you guys are doing very good. Guys, in the last video when we had met, we had discussed that we are going to start an arithmetic series and we'll be starting with the first topic as percentages. So here we are. Guys, we are not going to create a whole long video for the whole topic percentages. Instead of this, we'll be creating different videos for every important concept. So today we are going to start with a very basic concept of percentages with some important questions as well. So here we go with the first concept, which you can also call as a basic concept. Next, what percent is, right? If we split this word percent, so what do we get? See, this word percent, right? If we split into two words, so we get per and then cent. All right. What is the meaning of per? We can say per is also, divided, and cent word comes from century. Century means 100. So you can say percent is nothing but per plus cent or per 100. So very simple. When we have to find percent of something, it means that we have to find per 100 of something. For example, suppose we have to find 5% of something. Alright, let's say we have to find 5% of a variable x. Okay, so percent means per 100, so we can say this as 5 per 100 of x, right? And further, if we try to simplify this, on one hand we can say this is 1 by 20 of x, right? On the other hand, we can also call it 0.05 of x. So here I want to explain you that a percentage can be converted into the fraction and also it can be converted into the decimal. But how we can do that? We can do it simply by dividing by 100. So here it is the first concept of us that a percentage can be converted into the fraction or into the decimal simply after dividing by 100. Okay, let me simply write this. Percentage can be converted into a fraction or into a decimal when we divide this by 100. Alright, so simply guys we can do the vice versa as well. Suppose we have to convert a fraction or decimal into the percent. So we just do one thing, we multiply this by 100. Okay, so this is the very first concept and very important concept. If you have to convert percentage into the fraction or decimal, we divide by 100, and if we do the vice versa, means if you have to convert fraction or decimal into percent, we simply multiply by 100. Now guys, suppose you have to find 10% of a number, right? So 10% will be what? Let me write this here, just below this. So 10% we can say what? You have to convert percent to the fraction, so we divide this by 100. That means 10 by 100, which also can be 1 by 10. So simply guys, if you have to find 10% of a number, then we have to do nothing. We just have to divide that number by 10. We can say like this. Similarly, let's say we have to find 1% of a number, then it is 1 upon 100, percent to fraction dividing by 100. That means we can say if we have to find 1% of a number, we just have to divide the number by 100. That's it. Similarly, let's say if we have to find 0.1% of a number, so we divide 0.1 by 100, and then it can also be written as 1 by 1000. Alright guys, so this is how 10%, if you have to find, we just have to divide the number by 10. If you have to find 1% of a number, we have to divide the number by 100. And if you have to find 0.1% of a number, we just have to divide by 1000 and so on. We do not need to write the other ones because they are also obvious and that will be very lengthy. Now, we'll be doing some examples on the basis of this. Suppose guys, we have to find 20% of a number. Alright, let's say we have to find 20% of a number which is 440. Okay, so how do we do that? If we talk about the school, how we used to solve these questions in school? We used to say 20 upon 100 into 440. Obviously that is correct, but now we do not have that much of time of writing so much. So we can do what? Guys, as I just told you that dividing, finding the 10% of a number is nothing, but dividing the number by 10. So we can use that logic here. How? We can say 20% is nothing but twice of the 10 percentage. Alright, now what is 10% of 440? Guys, 10% is nothing but dividing the number by 10. So 10% of 440 means 440 by 10, which will be simply 44. So we can say this as 2 into 44 because 10% of 440 is 44. Now 2 into 44 must be nothing but 88. So this is how we can say 20% of 440 is 88. So this is how we can solve this question quickly. Obviously, we do not have to write so much, otherwise this method will also look lengthy. We have to do most of the things in our brain and we have to write as less as possible. Okay, similarly guys, if you have to find another percentage, let's say we have to find this time 32% of a number, and let's say that number is 480. So now what shall we do? because 32 is not a multiple of 10, right? So guys, we'll be doing a lot of working in our brain. For example, we can say this is 30 plus 2. Do not write so much, right? Because I'm explaining it for the first time, so I'm writing a lot. But guys, if you will be doing these kind of questions, and if you do, let's say 3-4 questions of such type, next time you do not need to write so much, right? You need to do a lot of work in your brain. So we can say this is 30 plus 2. Now 30 is a multiple of 10. So we can say this is as 3 into 10. And 2% is a multiple of 1%, which we haven't used so far. We can say this is 2 into 1%. Now, as we know that 10% is nothing but dividing the number by 10. So what should be 10% of 480? We have to divide 480 by 10, which will be nothing but 48. So we'll be saying this as 3 into 48. Now, finding 2 into 1%. 1%, guys, I just told you that is nothing but dividing the number by 100. So what shall be 1% of 480? Dividing 480 by 100, which makes 4.8. All right. Now, we just have to, calculate this. It's 3 into 48 is nothing but 144. And 2 into 4.8 is nothing but 9.6, which makes how much? Which makes 153.6. All right, so this is how we can find 32% of 480. As I said before, we are not supposed to write so much. If we write so much, then it will make, it will take so much of time. We have to do a lot of things in our brain. Let's do one more example, and this time we'll try not to write so much. Suppose, guys, this time, we have to find 42% of a number which is, let's say, 520. Now, as I said, we'll be doing most of the part in our brain. So let's do few functions in our brain. Let's say that 42% is nothing but 40 plus 2. 40% is 4 to 10%. Now 10% of 520 is nothing but 52, dividing by 10, as I told you before. Plus 2% more, which you can say 2 into 1%. And 1% of a number is nothing but dividing by 100. So 1% of 520 must be 5.2. Now, we'll just do some basic calculation. So 4 into 52 must be 208, plus 2 into 5.2 must be 10.4. Now guys, if we add this, it will be what? It will be 218.4. So this is how we can do these calculations, in a much lesser time. All right. Now guys, the next thing is we'll be doing, some very basic word problems. Because, in the end, in the examination, they ask the question of arithmetic only in the form of word problems. So here comes to the first word problem with us, which says that in a company, employees are divided among 3 categories, A, B, and C. 20% employees are of the category A, 25% out of the category B, and 220 employees are of the category C. Now find the total number of employees in the company. Guys, first let me tell you that how we used to solve these kind of questions in school. In school, first thing we used to assume that the total number of students are, some variable. So let me do in the same way. Let the total employees are X, right? And then we used to say that the total employees must be written in an equation. Total employees are what? We can also say the total employees are the employees of the category A plus of the category B plus of the category C. Total employees we assumed as X. The category A number of employees must be 20%. So we can say 20% of X. The category B we used to say 25%, so we'll add 25% to this. And then category C is given to us, which is 220, right? So this is what we used to do in school. All right, let's complete this, right? Let's do the whole solution of this. So let's see what do we get the value of X. All right, guys, 20% we can also say, 1 upon 5. 25% we can also say 1 upon 4. Or let's take everything, variable form in the one side and constant in the other side. So this will be how much? 20% is 1 by 5 of X. 25% is 1 by 4 of X plus 220, right? Now taking the variable on one side, so X minus 1 by 5 of X minus 1 by 4 of X, and the right hand side is 220. Now guys, if you try to solve this left hand side, if you just do some operation with the fractions, you will get what? See, this is, you can say 20 by 20, this is 4 by 20, this is 5 by 20. 20 minus 5, 20 minus 4 minus 5 will be 11. So we can say this is 11 by 20 of X, right? And the right hand side we have the same number, 220. Now with this, we can say the value of X must be 220 into 20 by 11. Alright guys, 220 by 11 must be 20, and 20 into 20 has to be 400. This is what we can say. Okay, so this is one of the ways of doing this, right? Now, as I said, this is a method of this school. Now, how can we do this kind of question in the IPMAT preparation, right? Obviously, we have to do something better than this, right? So guys, again, we'll be doing a lot of things in our brain. See, any number we can say is nothing but 100% of itself. So the total, employees must be 100% of the total employees, obviously. So guys, if you see that in category A, we have 20% employees. In category B, we have 25% employees. In category C, we are given the numbers. So as I said, A plus B plus C should make 100% of the total employees. So if A is 20%, if B is 25%, so A plus B together we can say is nothing but 45%. So obviously, what should be the percentage of C? With the help of this, we can say that the percentage of C has to be 55%. All right. So this is how we can go ahead. So we can say the number of employees of category C is 55% of the total students, total employees, which in fact we are given to us equal to 220. All right, so this equals to 220. So 58% of the total employees is 220. Now luckily 220 is a multiple of 55. 55 forza is 220. So guys, you can say 1% of the total employees is nothing but 4, because 55 forza is 220. And I also said that any number is nothing but 100% of itself. So we can say total employees is nothing but 100% of the total employees as well. Now guys, we know that the 1% of total employees is 4. So what should be 100% of the total employees? We can say this is equal to 4 into 100, which is also equals to 400. So this is also, we can solve the similar question. And answer is coming 400. Now you can observe yourself which method is better for IPMAT preparation. Because guys, in the exam, we don't only have to solve the question, but also we have to solve the question in the quicker time. So observing them, I'm sure you will find out the second method is much, much better. In fact, in this method, you can also avoid writing so many things which I have written here. All right, now coming to the question number 2 of this session. Question number 2 is again a word problem which says that in a school there are 900 students, out of which 45% of are the boys and 60% of the girls got passed. Find the number of failed girls. All right, guys. Again, in a school, how do we used to solve these kind of questions? We used to say that we used to find the total number of boys first, and then we used to subtract the total number of boys from the total students to get the number of girls. And then among the number of girls, we used to find the number of passed girls first, because that person is given obviously. And then we used to subtract the number of passed girls from the total girls to get the number of failed girls. Obviously, this is the right method, but it's a bit lengthy. So how can we do this quickly, right? This is what we have to learn. Okay, to do this question quickly, we'll directly jumping to the final part. The final question is what, guys? They're asking the number of failed girls. All right, let me write a few words. If you have to talk about the number of failed girls, let's look at about the total number of girls, right? Among the total girls, we can say what? That 60% of the girls have got passed. If 60% have got passed, then it's obvious that 40% must have got failed, right? So we can say 40% of the girls have got failed among the total girls. Now, how do we find the number of girls? So guys, about the number of girls, we are given a point that 45% students are boys. So if 45% students are boys, that means the number of girls has to be how much? We can say the number of girls has to be 55% of the total number of students, right? So we can say what? That the number of failed girls is 40% or 55% of the total number of the students. And we also know the total number of students are nothing but 900, right? So we can just put this number and get the final answer. So we can say this is 40% or 55% of the total number of students, which is equal to 900. So because this is our final calculation. Now to do that, we can either divide by 100, both the times, or we can, solve the percentages one by one. Suppose you have to do this one by one. So first let's find 55% of 900. So guys, to get the 55%, we can do 50% plus 5% to make the things easy. 50% is nothing but half of the number, so half of 900 is 450, right? 5% we can either say 10% by 2, or we can also say 50% by 10, right? So 50% by 10 has to be 45, simple, 50% is 450, by 10 is 45, or you can also say 10% by 2, 10% is 90, by 2 is 45, which makes the sum is equal to 945. So we'll just write this value as 495. Let's see what do we get in the end. So this makes 40% of 495. So this will be the final calculation of us, right? Now again we can say what? That 40% is nothing but 4 times of 10%, as we did in the beginning of the session, right? So we can say this is 4 into 10%. Now 10% of 495 is nothing but 49.5. Okay, so last calculation is 4 into 49.5. Now guys, 49.5 we can say 50 minus 0.5, right? So 50 minus 0.5 into 4 is what? You can say 4 into 50 minus 4 into 0.5 to do the calculation quickly, right? Now 4 into 50 has to be 200 and this has to be 2, this means 198. So finally we can say that answer of the question is 198, which is the number of failed girls. Finally we get this. Alright, so this is how we solve this question number 2. Now guys, question number 3, which is also one of the previous year question. As you can see, this question appeared in IPMAT Indore 2023. Let's read how we can do that. The question says that in an election with only two contesting the candidates, 15% of the voters did not turn up to vote, all right, and 50 voters cast invalid votes. It is known that 44% of all the voters in the voting list voted for the winner. If the winner got 200 votes more than the other candidate, then the number of voters in the voting list is. All right, let's try to read this again. They're saying that in the election there are only two contesting candidates. 15% of the voters did not turn up and 50 votes cast invalid votes. It's known that 44% of the voters in the voting list voted for the winner and the winner has got 200 votes more than the other candidate, means the loser, we can say that, then the number of voters in the voting list. Alright guys, how do we do that? First thing, we know that there are only two candidates, fine. 15% of the voters did not turn up to vote. So guys, how many people turn up for the votes? Let's write this, right? Number of, we can say what? Votes polled, right? Who actually go to poll the vote. We can say what? Among the total, 15% did not turn up. That means we can say that 100 minus 15, which is 85% of the total votes in the voters list. All right. Now guys, we got to know one more point, that among them, 50 votes cast invalid. So obviously, these votes will not be considered to declare the results. That means we will call them, invalid votes as it is written. So we can say what? The number of valid votes, right? Number of valid votes polled. Okay. So already we knew that 85% people are already, only, consider as in the voting list. Now we'll say what? Number of valid votes polled will be 85% of the total votes in the voting list minus this, 50, right guys? Minus 50. So these are, we can say, are the valid votes being polled. All right, so among them, only among these votes the result will be, considered. Now, among these people, some people have voted for the winner and some people have voted for the losers. So guys, how many people have voted for the winner? For that we are given 44% all the voters in the voting list has voted for the winner. So we can say that votes which the winner has got should be equal to 44% of the total votes in the voting list, right? And we are given that the winner is winning by 200 votes. That simply means the loser must have got 200 votes less than the winner. Simple as that. So guys, what should be the number of votes which loser has got? So we can say the votes which loser has got is equal to 44% of the total votes minus is equal to 200, right? So guys, this is the total votes which are going to consider for the results. These are the votes with the winner and these are the votes with the loser. So we can say what? The sum of the votes with the winner and the loser must be the total votes which are being considered for the results. Simple as that. So we'll create an equation on the basis of this. We'll say what? The votes of winner plus the votes of the loser should be equal to 85% of the total votes minus 50, right? The votes of winner, we can say what? That 44% of the total votes, right? The votes of the loser, we can say 44% of the total votes minus 200, right? Is equal to what? Is equal to 85% of the total votes minus 50. This is what we can say about this. Now if you have to simplify this, guys, 44 plus 44 is 88. 85 goes to the left hand side, which makes 3% of the total votes, right? And in the right hand side, it must be minus 50 and minus 200 comes to the right hand side. So 200 minus 50 is 150. So 3% of the total votes in the voting list is equal to 150. 3 can be cancelled out with this, which means 50. So we can say 1% of the total votes in the voting list is equal to 50. Now guys, what is the final question? The final question is to find the number of votes in the voting list. We already know the 1% of the votes in the voting list is equal to 50, and we need to find the total number of votes in the voting list. So guys, I told you already that total number of anything is nothing but 100% of itself, right? So we can say after that the total number of votes must be 100% of the total votes, right? Now 1% of the total votes is nothing but 50, so 100% must be 5,000. So this is how we can solve this question, guys. And as I said, this question appeared in IPMAT Indore. So if you know the basics, you can easily solve the question of the exam as well. Alright, so guys, this is all about the first video, which was a basic of the percentages. Now in the next class, we'll be coming up with another concept, which is basically how do we compare, how do we convert certain fraction into the percentages. So this is all for the day. Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned with the series. Take care.